Terrorism, flood, fire, earthquake, car or plane crashes, building collapse, and even armed robbery, each bringing assets and revenue loss, human mortality, and in 90% of survivors, great loss of hope. Flooding is the most common of all environment hazards, and it regularly claims over 20,000 lives per year and adversely affects about 75 million people worldwide. Nigeria has had its fair share.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time. And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows, only time.
Emergencies, as the name implies, are not set out to happen, but they can be planned or budgeted for. Disaster management may not avert emergency threats, but it will decrease the impact of disaster where well handled. It then brings to the fore the key phases to management of disaster: mitigation, response, recovery, preparedness, and prevention. Every citizen must be well acquainted with all of them. Wishing disaster away does not avert it. Rather, as put in the local parlance, a man of valor is only identified at a time of emergency. Let us always be prepared.
Issues in the sports sector remain one of the most debated among Nigerians due to the passion, followership, government involvement, impact on Nigeria's external image and our national life in the sports parliament. The NTA offers Nigerians deep views on issues with experts in the sports sector, offering in-depth analysis, hindsight, insight and foresight towards elevating Nigerian sports to the zenith on the floor of the sports parliament. Sports Parliament, a unique platform for sports discussions, showing live on the NTA. Keep a date with the parliamentarians.
The eyes have it.
Let us restore trust, let us inspire hope, and let us start right now.
Global leaders to confront global issues as high-level segment of the 76th UN General Assembly opens in New York. Nigeria's journey to COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing begins. President Buhari meets WTO DG.
In order to solve this problem, we have to produce more vaccines and then we have to distribute them.
Plus, a House of Representatives seeks exemption of police from contributory pension fund.
Those privileges that is enjoyed by the military should be enjoyed by the police.
Good evening and welcome to NTA Network News. I'm Ian Ray. John Adiola Komiakere joins me from Lagos. Thank you for joining us. The United Nations 76th General Assembly has opened in New York, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres urging world leaders to show greater commitment to multilateralism in COVID-19 pandemic preparedness, combating climate change, gender equality, as well as global peace and security. President Muhammadu Buhari is among dignitaries attending the opening session on NTA. Fineface reports.
World leaders arrived at the UN House Tuesday for the opening session of the 76th General Assembly, which has the theme, Building Resilience Through Hope to Recover from COVID-19, Rebuild Sustainably, Respond to the Needs of the Planet, Respect the Rights of People, and Revitalize the United Nations.
We have never been so technologically advanced. We have never been so connected. We have never had the wealth, the resources, or the know-how that we have now. There's nothing in our path to stop us but ourselves. Let us be the United Nations that people want us to be.
This is our time, a moment for transformation, an era to reignite multilateralism, an age of possibilities. Let us restore trust, let us inspire hope, and let us start right now.
Joe Biden addressed the Assembly for the first time as President of the United States.
To deliver for our own people, we must also engage deeply with the rest of the world. To ensure that our own future, we must work together with other partners, our partners toward a shared future.
Other leaders are scheduled to address the Assembly in the coming days. Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
Still in New York, the World Trade Organization, WTO, has promised to support Nigeria in its efforts at developing the manufacture of the COVID-19 vaccines. Director General of the organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, made this known while speaking to newsmen after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari on the margins of the UN General Assembly in New York. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, briefed President Muhammadu Buhari on the serious reforms being implemented to get the organization back on track. She solicited the support of the president in this regard, especially on some of the negotiations relating to fisheries development, health, and in particular, the battle against COVID-19.
The fact that on the African continent, less than 4% of us have been vaccinated, whereas in the rich countries, close to 58% have been vaccinated, is not something that really is good for the world. Why? Because we have all these variants that are circulating, and if you don't vaccinate people, they'll just migrate from unvaccinated to the vaccinated. So what we're saying is, in order to solve this problem, we have to produce more vaccines, and then we have to distribute them equitably to parts of the world that don't have. And that's the narrative. At the WTO, what we're doing is actually working directly with the manufacturers. We're helping them monitor their supply chains, which are very complicated, to see what are the bottlenecks they have, what are the regulatory issues they face, how can we facilitate trade. In return, we're asking them to deconcentrate production on the African continent. We don't want to continue importing 99% of vaccines that we use. We're also looking at Nigeria. We're the largest country, and His Excellency Mr. President also wants to develop manufacturing. So we want to support that. We've been working with the Honorable Minister of Health to see what we can attract, the investment we can attract to Nigeria.
Inequity in access to the COVID-19 vaccines, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala emphasized, is not acceptable.
Vaccines are like a public good, so they also need investment from the government to match part of what the private sector is doing. We need demand Vaccine producers will not produce unless they know that the vaccines are going to be purchased. And so, you know, the fact if Nigeria can aggregate its demand, then that will help to persuade them to invest. And I think the Honorable Minister of Health is leading a task force of which I'm a member. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, is a member, Kia Adeshino, and Mohammed Pate. We're all trying to help from the outside to see how we can move things for investment.
The Director General is optimistic that within the next 2 to 3 years, the fruits of this labor will be reaped. From New York, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, a new partnership for development between Nigeria, Nicaragua and Bolivia is coming to fruition, with Latin America and Africa's biggest economy opening doors of opportunities to each other for mutual benefits. This was at the sideline of the United Nations General Assembly holding in New York. Foreign Desk correspondent Usman Aliyu brings us details.
This new partnership is necessary. The global pandemic has made the world to redefine social and economic development to bounce back. Talks between Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, and his Nicaraguan counterpart, Denis Ronaldo Moncada Colenderes, centered on how to establish binational committee for regular engagements, review and evaluate agreements. Nicaragua also asks Nigeria for a support to be an observer in the African Union, just as Nigeria offered them opportunities abound in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. They also share experience on the impact of COVID-19 and vaccine rollout.
Our ambassador told us, and permanent representative, the solidarity and the strong support he always provides for Nigeria. So really we are very grateful for that.
Meanwhile, Bolivian Minister of Foreign Affairs Rogelio Maita also reached out to Nigeria for a new and revitalized deal, saying the 29-year relation has provided hope for an enhanced cooperation. Mining is one other key area they agreed to look into. It is not only the South Americans that are on this development paradigm. Denmark also wants a pact with Nigeria in agro-business, dairy development, maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea, and conflict resolution.
Apart from the cooperation in the Gulf of Guinea, they've been very supportive of our humanitarian aspect in the northeast, Nigeria with the internally displaced and all that. And then in terms of investment, we're trying to diversify and try to attract more investment, and they have also been very good. They're a seafaring nation, a maritime nation. They have this company Maersk that's also involved in shipping goods and things, transport.
And we want to cooperate with all of the countries to also look at the root causes, find the root causes for piracy. So we are, as a maritime nation like Nigeria, we are very occupied with safe travel at sea for our seafarers, for our ships. So that is why we are investing heavily in this.
In New York, Usman Aliyu, NTA News.
Statistics from International Labour Organization shows that 54 million women lost their jobs between 2019 and 2020 due to caregiving crisis occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic. Uche Ugochukwu reports that at the sideline of the 76th UN General Assembly in New York, champions of gender equality tabled actionable solutions.
The COVID-19 pandemic negatively affected women in all spheres. Many are out of jobs, and there are projections that 2 million more will lose their jobs this 2021. These gender equality champions are worried that despite these challenges, only 11% of policies globally address women's unpaid care at work as countries boost social protection.
The gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls is integral to all priorities. It is, in fact, the key priority in all our development efforts. To recover from COVID-19, or to accelerate and achieve the SDGs, or to ensure peaceful, prosperous societies.
They suggested that as countries gradually move from COVID-19 response to recovery, they should invest more in good social protection programs for women, caregiving, and data collection.
We need to look at this barrier and figure out what is good policy that can help women with that unpaid care so that they can do what they want and return to their jobs.
The panelists are of the view that efforts at ensuring gender equality must be prioritized for the world to achieve a holistic economic recovery. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Similarly, the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed says the world needs to be doing better in applying the solutions to sustainable development. She said this at the Pathways and Partners Dialogue on localizing the SDGs on the sidelines of the United Nations 76th General Assembly underway in New York. Again, on NTA Fineface brings us details.
And you're going to say to me now, what about poor people? Please don't underestimate how far people in Africa have gone with connectivity.
For the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, there's improvement in information about the Sustainable Development Goals. What is lacking, however, is the localization of the targets for positive action at individual and community levels.
Just the mobile phone alone, that you can have almost cashless societies in 1 or 2 countries with the phone. So I think things need to be scaled up. We need to do them in a hurry. We have to stop thinking poorly for the poor. Be as ambitious as you and I are privileged to be.
The SDGs are said to have the capacity to address the world's most pressing challenges.
Everybody can get covered, but we need the supplies. And then governments, local to national, around the world, make your SDG plans. Part of our job is to help you get the financing that you need. So the bottom up, the top down, let's get this done. That's the key.
To this effect, the United Nations is launching the Local 2030 initiative to create a network of global, national and local partners to facilitate innovative solutions. On Ngiye Fineface, NTA News.
And in furtherance of the Sustainable Development Goals seeking to promote economic growth, social inclusion and environmental protection, governments in Africa must ensure that engaging the continent's rapidly growing youth population through jobs and other opportunities remain its central priority. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this at the virtual launch of the United Nations Global Compact Africa Strategy, an initiative of the United Nations to galvanize private sector participation in the actualization of the SDGs. Africa's private sector, the Vice President said, must also scale up its contribution to the continent's economic and social transformation, stressing that as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement enters into force, African businesses have a historic opportunity to embrace sustainability and be part of the collective effort to build a more sustainable and inclusive future. It is important to ensure that all Nigerians have clear understanding of the federal government's Human Capital Development Program, objectives and its relevance. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said this in a message at the Human Capital Development Communications Strategy Validation Meeting in Abuja. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Human capital is really the most important asset that Nigeria has. And this you all know, but it's something that we have to reiterate.
And that is how the outside world see Nigeria, a nation with an estimated population of about 200 million people. Human capital is considered as Nigerians' greatest resource, but which potential is yet to be realized. And they wondered why.
Until and unless our political leaders realize the imperative of taking very difficult decisions for today so that generations will benefit, will not make any progress.
It is time to do the right thing, even at a price, Governor El-Rufai says, and part of that is showing the political will towards investing more in education and health and other areas that can lead to human development. The unveiling of this Human Capital Development logo marks the beginning of great things to come.
as the federal government, working in collaboration with all stakeholders, is determined to change the narrative.
We cannot do this quietly all the time, even though many of us would wish we could. People have to know what we are doing. Stakeholders have to be carried along, and the effect have to be so visible.
To execute this Human Capital Development Program by the National Economic Council, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, a core working group established with a mandate to develop a national human capital development strategy.
It is not about the state, it is not about the development partners, it is about all of us. Let's have that partnership that would make this happen.
They will have health, plus education, plus skills, plus capabilities. 4 parts. Anything you do amongst those 4 things would allow you to improve human capital.
We will need to show how education pays. It is this translation and this rubbing of minds between us and our public that actually would be key.
This event by the core working group is to unveil the communications strategy to ensure that all Nigerians fully understand the program and to own it. From the banquet hall of the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Time for a first break. Please stay.
Somebody's go to the market and get me everything I need to cook this food. Get my pepper and get my onions. I'm waiting. Do you know how to buy pepper? Do you know how to buy tashi? You won't even let my mother come and stay. I need help. You don't know how stressful it is taking care of these 3 kids. Are you still there? If you're not getting me fresh meat, do you understand?
Okay, I'm at the meat.
Can you switch to video call, please? Okay, give me that one. The one by your side. Okay, fine. Hey,
please. Where do I buy all these things now? Hey, go get Glow Berekete and call madam.
Berekete. The heavyweight voice and data plan. Get 600 Naira free credit plus 700% bonus on every recharge and up to 100% bonus on data plans.
The Northeast Development Commission wishes to announce the foundation laying ceremony for the construction of 500 mass housing units, flag off for the distribution of food and non-food items, commissioning and handing over of the Bond Center at Federal Medical Center Yola, and fully equipped molecular laboratory at the State Specialist Hospital Jimeta. Inspection tour of the ongoing reconstruction work at the 3 destroyed bridges on the Mobi Madagali Highway, and inspection visit to some state government-owned technology skills acquisition centers, currently slated for resuscitation and operationalization, as well as inspection of completed and ongoing projects by the Commission in Adamawa State. Chief Host His Excellency Right Honorable Ahmad Umar Fintiri, Executive Governor Adamawa State. Special Guest of Honor Haji Sadia Umar Farouk, Honorable Minister Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Chairman of the occasion Major General Paul Tarfa, Chairman NEDC Governing Board. Host Muhammad Jal Kali, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Nurses Development Commission. Father of the Day, His Royal Highness Dr. Muhammad Barkindo Aliu Mustafa, the Lamid of Adamawa, dated Wednesday 22nd September 2021, venue beside Digital Bridge Institute, Yola South, Adamawa. Time 10 a.m. prompt. Attendance is strictly by invitation in accordance with COVID-19 protocol. Announcer Organizing Committee.
The federal government, through NPHCDA, commenced Phase 2 vaccination of all persons 18 years and above with safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines approved by WHO and certified by NAFDAC. Special arrangement has been made for staff, their dependents and retirees of ministries, departments and agencies of government, private corporate organizations and non-governmental organizations. To benefit from this special arrangement, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng/corporate vaccination/ to obtain, fill and submit the Google form. NPHCDA will contact you within 48 hours. Protect yourself, your family and your workplace against COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines are free, safe and effective. For further inquiries, call 0700-220-1122 or send a mail to covid19.vaccination@nphcda.gov.ng. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
Here today, gone tomorrow. Cause you volatile like the water. and you promise what you don't know. Sometimes it's right and then it's so wrong. Them go do like say them why, who promise you the world. Brother, all now worship. Up all on no be open eye. I see no be water. God give up the letter.
The smartphone network.
Pursuant to the provisions of Section 4 of the Nigerian Communications Act 2003, the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) informs the general public that it is illegal to provide automated vehicular tracking services (AVTS) and remote inventory management systems using communication systems in Nigeria without requisite license or authorization from the Commission.
For the guidance of members of the public, the Commission has published a list of all licensed AVTS operators on its website.
The NCC hereby gives a 14-day pre-enforcement notice to all persons involved in the legal sale or installation of AVTS to regularize their operations by securing the relevant license from the Commission.
Upon expiration of the deadline, the Commission shall commence appropriate enforcement action, which includes prosecution, fines, and confiscation of equipment used in the unauthorized provision of such services.
Be warned.
Professor Omar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman, NCC.
Announcer.
NCC.
Connecting Nigeria.
He's a very tough guy who knocks out every opponent. But now he's been knocked down by malaria.
Amatem Soft Gel.
Amatem Soft Gel makes treating malaria easy. Amatem Soft Gel is a game changer.
Oh! The opponent is down! Amatem Soft Gel are good to combat malaria for body.
Available for adults and children. Say no to malaria. Yes to life.
Thank you for staying. President Muhammadu Buhari has written to Senate requesting the amendment of the administrative structure of the Petroleum Industry Act, recently signed into law. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the amendment bill seeks to ensure federal character principle and to strengthen the administrative machinery of the new oil sector regime.
Plenary took off with President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, reading executive communications from President Muhammadu Buhari. One of the presidential letters is requesting the amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act, which seeks to expand membership of the board of the two regulatory institutions and to exclude the ministers of petroleum resources and that of finance from the membership of the two institutions.
Removal of the ministers of petroleum and finance from the board of the two institutions. The proposed amendment will increase the membership of the board from 9 to 13 members, that is representing 44% expansion of the board size.
The president also forwarded names of 4 persons as members of the board of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, including that of George Abang Ebungu as secretary. 4 members of the board of the Upstream Regulatory Commission, with Isa Ibrahim Modibo as chairman, and also 4 persons as members of the board of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Edaire Kogo Ogan is to serve as chairman. The National Toll-Free Emergency Number Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Ibikule Amosun, Sickle Cell Anemia Prevention, Control and Management Bill by Senator Sam Egu, and the Federal Orthopedic Hospital Dekina Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Issa Jibrin, were passed. The legal framework for the establishment of the Federal Medical Center Diba, Gombe State, sponsored by Senator Danjuma Goje, punishment of the offenses of abduction and wrongful restraint by Senator Ibikule Amosun, and the Federal College of Education, Basambiri, Bayelsa State Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Bia Borokuma Degieremyo, passed second reading.
To support and provide an enabling environment for medical training of personnel as the board may consider necessary.
By ensuring that recipients of any proceeds of the act of kidnapping are heavily sanctioned with terms of imprisonment of up to 30 years.
Nembe and branch local government areas, out of the 8 local government areas, are the only local government areas without a federal educational institution, secondary or tertiary.
Senate paid tribute to late former Deputy President of the Senate, Ibrahim Mantu, and late Olabiyi Durojaye as moved by Senators Stephanus Gyang and Olalekan Mustafa. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Public Accounts has advised the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, to devise an effective debt recovery scheme to ensure that it recovers debts due to the services it provided to several customers. Chairman of the committee, Matthew Urogide, who said this, also announced the vacation of queries by Office of the Auditor General to NTA from 2016 to 2018 financial year. Mobolaji Moribiring has the report.
Senate Public Accounts Committee has been inviting ministries, departments and agencies before its annual recess. At its resumed investigative hearing over queries by the Auditor General for the Federation, the Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority is before the committee to explain and clarify on issues in the year 2016 to 2018 financial report. The Director General, while acknowledging some of the infractions, noted that though inexcusable, they occurred as a result of the authority's peculiar line of business, which involves meeting deadlines.
The trade debtors arose from credit given to advertising agencies in line with the advertising practice. Efforts are already being made to recover the outstanding sums. However, most of the agencies have folded up, and we have written a series of letters to the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, BON, and the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON.
The Director General further said that those institutions and agencies that are heavily indebted to the NTA and have consistently refused to pay will be blacklisted and will be treated on a cash and carry basis only. With the peculiarity of managing media organizations, the committee observed that the perceived infractions by the Nigerian Television Authority was for a good cause.
We're going to resolve it in your favor. On behalf of the committee, we want to respect that wish. We'll vacate that query.
The committee adjourned with expectations that more ministries, departments and agencies will appear before it. From the National Assembly, Mobolaji Moribiri, NTA News.
And still in the National Assembly, the House of Representatives is working on a legislation that would exempt the Nigeria Police Force from the contributory pension scheme. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the bill received overwhelming support from House members as it passed second reading.
Leading the debate on the bill, which seeks to amend Section 5, Subsection 1 of the Pension Reform Act, sponsor of the bill, Ejirogene Waive, says the act is unfair to the police.
An assistant superintendent of police, for example, gets 1.5 million, whereas his counterparts in the military, the intelligence services that are not in the scheme, get much more than that, 12.8. But the worst thing is that even at retirement, the police still don't get this meager sum under the contributory scheme.
As a CSP, Colonel equivalent, I collect 23,000 naira, Mr. Speaker. 23,000 naira after serving 15 years.
Those privileges that is enjoyed by the military should be enjoyed by the police.
It is long overdue that our policemen should be treated with dignity.
The country should be able to sacrifice whatever is required for those servicemen. And we cannot be seen to put our policemen in jeopardy.
The lawmakers also gave support to the motion from Saidu Bargaja, which urged authorities to provide relief materials to victims of insurgency at Isa and Sabon Birni in Sokoto State.
Zeretoni in Isa and Sabon Birni Freya constituency are living in the abject poverty and suffering.
House members adopted a motion from Haruna Dederi calling for intensified efforts to prevent bandits fleeing military operations from setting up camp in other locations, as is being witnessed in boundary villages of Rogo, Kano State. The motion from Jafar Ribadu demanding the relocation of the Yola Correctional Center in Adamawa State to its new site was also adopted.
It's a lot of discomfort for the residents and visitors due to the frequent roadblock, especially in terms of rampage by inmates or anticipated attack by insurgents.
Meanwhile, the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, has brought to the notice of members an executive communication seeking amendments of the Petroleum Industry Act recently signed into law. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Elsewhere, the federal government says it's constantly reviewing its domestic laws to identify changes required to bring the digital economy to taxation in the country. Musa Abubakar reports that Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, said this at a policy dialogue by West African Tax Administration Forum in Abuja.
From 5 to 15 countries, West African Tax Administration Forum WATAF is growing from strength to strength. It's now 10 years of added value to tax administration in Africa, and members here are looking to the future.
There is an ongoing debate in the country about responsibilities of tax administration. We will begin to learn from global best practices adopted by other countries, and also hope that you will gain something from our experiences thus far.
This high-level policy dialogue is exploring alternative sources of tax with a focus on the growing digital economy, which many see as untapped revenue Africa could use to drive sustainable development.
It is incumbent on all of us to find solutions to tackle the challenges that the digital economy brings with it. This forum has provided the right platform for dialogue among national tax authorities.
This special General Assembly of Tax Administrators in the West African sub-region provides a unique opportunity for frank and forthright discussions on how best we can protect our interests and maximize our benefits, not just as individual countries, but as a regional bloc.
With the simplification of tax remittances through deployment of tax pro and the resultant efficiency, the service is geared towards recording increased collection rates.
The forum is to explore emerging technology solutions for tax compliance and global issues in taxation of digital economy, with the hope of coming up with far-reaching resolutions. In Abuja, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
Increasing the allocation and implementation of projects designed for women's economic empowerment is key to transforming the nation's critical sector. This is the major focus at the inauguration of the Technical Working Group by the Federal Ministry of Budget in collaboration with the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, supported by the Development, Research and Project Center in Abuja. Benny Adams reports.
When you talk of policy implementation, monitoring and evaluation is a very important component of it.
Funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Technical Working Group is expected to support the accountability process of piloting the application of monitoring and evaluation framework on women's economic empowerment programs in Nigeria.
We have to look at those policies, program and project, and then identify, some key performance indicators that will highlight, whether those things, will be achieved and what we are aspiring for, and then disaggregate whatever information we get, within the perspective of to what extent, have they empowered women.
From CBN and many organizations are saying, oh, we have money for this, we have monies for that, we have projects for this, we have projects for that. But if you ask them specifically in terms of gender disaggregated data, these things are completely missing. So the Technical Working Group will be able to monitor that to ensure that by number, we understand how many women are benefiting. We also ensure that the impact that these projects are meant to have, that they really achieve it, and that they are affecting women real time, ensuring that there's safety, security, etc. in the business environment for women.
The Technical Working Group comprises of 20 monitoring and evaluation officers from 10 ministries and departments, as well as 20 civil society organizations working in the area of women's economic development. Benny Adams, NTA News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says the latest approach in combating banditry by states troubled by activities of these criminals should be applauded rather than playing up sentiments against such state governors. The minister stated this when he led journalists to Katsina. Anthony Forsen reports.
The visit is to give journalists an opportunity to get first-hand information on efforts of the Katsina state government and other affected states in the northwest, strategies being adopted that has succeeded in cracking down the bandits.
Yes, sir, we are not in any doubt that some of the measures we have embarked upon have started yielding fruits. However, Your Excellency, it's unfortunate that the media is not giving the same attention to the turn of events as they've been giving to the activities of the bandits. We believe that these efforts are deserve to be trumpeted.
The minister called on Nigerians to see the crackdown on criminal elements in the society as a responsibility of all and not government alone.
Because it will encourage the state governors, the government, the stakeholders, our emirs, and everybody involved. It will also encourage our security personnel who daily make the ultimate sacrifice to keep us safe.
Governor Aminu Bello Masari explained that the vicious crackdown on bandits in the state has become necessary.
The issues here of banditry, especially Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, part of Niger, part of Kaduna State, has no religious problem, no tribal, no any problem. So if you take whatever action, nobody will say and complain to you or religious or tribal ground. We are the same people, same language, same culture, same tradition. We have suddenly become enemies of each other. The good ones on this part and the bad ones on the other part. You say human right, whose right? Right of 10 against the right of 1? I wish Nigerian Bar Association is here, because they are the ones very quick to find ways of bailing out non-bandits. And when they go back to their community, they unleash terror on the community. I think this issue of addressing issue of security is everybody's responsibility.
Emir of Katsina, Abdulmumin Kabir Usman, commended Governor Masari's will to authorize a total crackdown on the bandits and ensure the state is rid of notorious criminal elements. In Katsina, Anthony Forsen, NTA News.
And away from Katsina now, President Muhammadu Buhari joins the entertainment industry in Nigeria and world over, particularly performing at his in celebrating with legendary juju singer, songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Chief Sunday Adeniyi Adegeye, aka King Sani Ade, on his 75th birthday on September 22nd, 2021. The president extols the courage, foresight and innovative spirit of the music artist who has since graduated into an authority in the literary and theatrical world, sharing his talent as a visiting professor of music at Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and championing many development causes. President Buhari believes King Sani Ade's several nominations for the Grammy, being the first Nigerian for such recognition, brought the spotlight on Nigeria's multi-talented artists, creating opportunities for many nominations and an eventual win that further boosted the country's image among Committee of Nations. President Buhari prays for longer life and God's blessings on his family. Now time to pause here in Abuja and let Adiola feed us from Lagos. Adiola, it's over to you.
Thank you, Nyere. The Nigerian Navy says it is working on improving the quality and scope of its operations by encouraging regular manpower development for its personnel. Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, stated this at the closing ceremony of the Naval Engineering Retreat 2021 in Lagos. Hengino John Adams reports.
This convergence is not all about combat on the high sea. It is a gathering of engineers who, though attired in Navy uniforms, are focused on how to sustain the contribution of the engineering section of the Nigerian Navy towards attaining service goals. One of such is requisite maintenance intervention to ensure ships' availability, equipped serviceability, and a well-motivated workforce. The 2 days of brainstorming for engineers, seamen, and logisticians identified critical focus areas.
The discussions in the retreat also revealed the need to make pragmatic and essential changes to the career development of engineers and technicians, as well as engineering practices. It is envisaged that these changes will elicit the needed stimulus to reposition the branch for enhanced productivity.
Their intensive engagement gave birth to implementable suggestions and recommendations.
We need to establish fleet maintenance command, review of the technical training policy, as well as the Nigerian Naval Engineering College training curriculum to address industrial attachments.
The Chief of the Naval Staff also inspected a ship under construction. Yes. Knowledge acquired during the conference is expected to leave an imprint on the quality of service and interventions going forward. In Lagos, Hingino John Adams, NTA News.
And still talking security, as the Nigerian Armed Forces continue to make appreciable progress in war against insurgencies and banditry, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, says efforts are being intensified to enhance the Nigerian Army capability to repel unexpected attacks on its various formations across the country. He stated this when he paid a courtesy visit on Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu at the State House in Marina, Lagos. Musa Toliat completes the report.
Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, is seeking collaborative efforts between the Army and state governments to strengthen capabilities of its formations across the country.
We are always committed and willing to do our very best to make sure that security is enhanced across the state and all for the Army, I will say across the country. We are doing other operational activity in other parts of the country, and that's why now the synergy is required between the Army, other services, other agencies, including other stakeholders, so that we can enhance our operations.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu assured the Army boss that Lagos State government will always render support to security agencies in the state, adding that security is germane to economic development of the country.
We see this nation as a nation for all of us, as a place where we all need to have ourselves and continue to work in unity, in peace and in progress. The state government will continue, to render support that is required, to render assistance as and when due to all of the various security architecture that we have in Lagos to ensure that Lagos continue to remain safe, remain secure, and peaceful for our citizens.
The Chief of Army Staff is taking a tour of Army formations across the country to assess their combat readiness and render capability support where needed. In Lagos, Musa Toliat, NTA News.
Those are stories from Lagos. The news will continue after this break with Nyere in Abuja. Stay with us.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, cordially invites the general public to a special town hall meeting to address the vandalization of power and telecommunications infrastructure in the country. Date, Thursday, 23rd September 2021. Venue, Banquet Hall, Government House, Maiduguri, Borno State. Time, 10 a.m. Chief host, His Excellency Professor Babagana Umara Zulum, Executive Governor of Borno State. Announcer, Dr. Mrs. Ifoma Ayan Otaku, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
It's 6 o'clock in the morning, getting set for another day. Another chance to change my story. I believe in my hustle. I know be lazy person. But life is just a knock big basketballs. If it don't close, I go find another. If I fall down, I go try to recover. If it ever walk me, I know they bother. Cause I believe, say, I go surely prosper. They don't get that shit, won't be. No matter what they say, we move.
Whatever life brings, we move. Turn up your dreams. MTN, everywhere you go.
Bye. Don't worry, dear. I'll take care of it. How do you manage to keep your fabric so white? And how do you manage to keep your house this clean?
I always use Hypo to make our white clothes whiter and to keep our home clean and germ-free.
Make your white fabrics whiter and your home free of illness causing viruses and germs with the disinfectant power of Hypo Bleach.
We don't like to eat better. More nutritious meals, more veggies. But we want it tasty and easy too. No cubes. That's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you. And more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
We love dances that create wow performances. And for many stains, we need wow. Amazing washing power. Each wow pack gets a lot of clothes clean and fresh. Wow. Washes a lot, saves a lot.
Wow Wash and Win Millions promo. Millions of Naira, daily prizes, and a million Wow sachets are up for grabs. Buy Wow now. Offer valid till October 25th, 2021.
Indomie welcomes you back to school. Have a session filled with lots of fun and excitement. Stay safe, stay healthy. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
When you wake up in the morning, before you start your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time. For work and for play, for a great start to your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
We always start our day with a nourishing Kellogg's breakfast, powered with the goodness of grains and 11 essential vitamins and minerals. So in our family, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
have you back. For almost 12 hours yesterday, residents of Birni Kebbi in Kebbi State were gripped in apprehension and uncertainty following the sudden loss of MTN signal, a development that left many asking questions owing to the current situation in the neighboring states of Zamfara, Sokoto and Katsina. Abdul Jalil Muhammad Bawa has an update on the situation.
Between the hours of 10 to 11 yesterday, those climbed with MTN as their GSM service provider without any notice found their network off, a development that put them in serious discomfort and anxiety. Some of them who are yet to come to terms with the development have this to say.
I feel bad. Since 11 a.m. I want to communicate with my families, with my business friends, but I can't communicate with them.
We cannot make call and we are just realizing no network, nothing.
Many were asked what they think could be responsible for the sudden loss of the signal.
Without any problem, they can't just cease communication like that. Maybe there is problem. That's why they see.
We thank God for the situation we find ourselves. So it's because it is a time it will go.
Attempt to speak with officials of the MTN communication company in Birni Kebbi was not successful, as they declined, saying they have to get approval from their headquarters before commenting. However, the network was restored at about 9 p.m. yesterday. In Birni Kebbi, Abdul Jalil Muhammad Bawa, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Sokoto State government, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, are to block the telecommunications services in 14 local government areas to further check the activities of bandits and other collaborators in the state. A statement by the Special Advisor to the State Governor on Media and Publicity, Muhammad Bello, says this follows the containment order approved 3 weeks ago, which closed some roads, markets, suspension of trading and transportation in animals, petroleum products in jerry cans, among others. Also suspended are movement of more than 3 persons on motorcycles and tricycles as dusk to dawn curfew in the affected local governments. Time for another break. Stay.
Job creation, skill acquisition, and innovation among Nigerian teeming youth, and access to credit facilities by the present administration. Part 2. That is our focus on NTA Tuesday Live this week, bridging the gap of unemployment and strengthening poverty reduction in Nigeria. Tuesday Live, every week at 10:30 p.m. It promises to be incisive and educative. Don't miss it.
Mommy is ready to receive me a bundle of joy. Mommy is making my home cleaner and safer. We are Dettol, Dettol Sure.
Illnesses can happen at home too. That's why Dettol and me together will make my baby's home safe and to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why moms want to be Dettol. Dettol Sure.
We are Dettol, Dettol Sure.
Title chasing, Manchester United will have to overcome one more hurdle when they welcome Aston Villa to Old Trafford. Will it continue to be their theatre of dreams, or can Aston Villa throw a spanner in their works? This Saturday, it's Manchester United versus Aston Villa on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 12 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
This na the story of Pekin, we rise to the max. Rain or shine, it not settle for less. Na the story of small boy we get big talent. Home and away. Wait to, it be like say na the story of one man we fall, but we bounce back in style.
Osime, wetin dey motivate you? I want day big, special and great.
Watching us live from Big Brother House Studio.
Joy for Osimhen and his teammates, a chuff for him as well.
Make we enjoy Max Entertainment together.
Sports or movies, telenovela or cartoon, music or reality TV. With just 6,900 naira, you fit get your Go TV decoder plus 1 month Max subscription. Make you enjoy over 75 channels with for Go TV Max. Make you and your special ones enjoy better things on Max levels. Go TV, love it.
Let's have a bit of sports now with Badi Adeleye.
Many thanks, Yeri. Let's begin with football. Bayana of South Africa have won the 2021 Aisha Buhari Cup after defeating Super Falcons of Nigeria 4-2 in the last fixture of the Six Nation tournament on Tuesday. South Africa took the lead in the 6th minute through an own goal after Michel Alozie sent the ball into our own net. They doubled the lead from the penalty spot in the 19th minute through Linda Mothalo, following a handball by Onomebe. With a minute left in the first half, they got their third off a header from Gabriela Sagago after the Falcons failed to clear their lines. The Falcons came out more determined in the second half and pulled a goal back through Vivian Ikechukwu to make it 3-1. She got another in the 53rd minute through a long-range strike, but it was the South Africans who had the last laugh as they extended their lead from the penalty spot in the 86th minute to seal a 4-2 win. Moving on, the 2021 Southwest Games has been flagged off in Abeokuta. The sporting fiesta known as Sowega 2021 will feature 12 sports including athletics, football, chess, Scrabble, basketball and volleyball, with sportsmen and women from tertiary institutions and security agencies in the Southwest set to participate. The games will officially open at the MKO Abiola Stadium on Tuesday, September 28 by 12 noon. And finally, Nigerian-born British fighter Anthony Joshua has warned that he has primed multiple hurtful punches for Alexander Usyk, whether it is the right hand, the uppercut or the jab. Joshua and Usyk briefly stepped into the ring on Tuesday night at the public workouts without giving away too many secrets ahead of Saturday's fight. Recall that IBF, WBA and WBO champion Joshua was deep in talks to face WBC title holder Tyson Fury until negotiations dramatically broke down. If Joshua beats Usyk and Fury again defeats Deontay Wilder on October the 9th, an undisputed
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
This is the network service of the NTA.
The housing solution we have developed is a multifaceted one. First, we have tried to lead a program to build what we think will be an acceptable and hopefully affordable housing type based on surveys we did in 2015-2016 and construction that started in 2017. And that's going on in 34 states as the National Housing Program.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The League of Women Voters of Nigeria, NILOV, is an all-female NGO of women uplifting other women. NILOV, founded by Dr. Dame Esther Aduehi, is a non-political and non-partisan organization whose aim is to empower women economically and politically for a more perfect democracy. Some of our dedicated members passionate about the education of the girl child and empowerment of women include former Minister of Industries, Chief Mrs. Nike Akonde, first female MD, Bank of Industry, Ms. Evelyn Oputu, former two-time Minister and Ambassador Dr. Kema Chikwe, Hajia Ina Chiroma, former Ministers of Women's Affairs, Senator Stella Omu and Iyom Joseph Aneni, Senator Daisy Danjuma, former Permanent Secretary and Head of the Service, Ms. Ama Pepple. Let's join these distinguished women and others like Senator Biodun Olujimi, Senator Uche Ekonife, Right Honorable Felicia Bassi, Honorable Chinwe Mornu, Dr. Rosalind Okosu, Dr. Regina Omog Agege, and others. NILOV, women lifting other women. NILOV, together we can.
Title chasing, Manchester United will have to overcome one more hurdle when they welcome Aston Villa to Old Trafford. Will it continue to be their theatre of dreams, or can Aston Villa throw a spanner in their works? This Saturday, it's Manchester United versus Aston Villa on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 12 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
The state of mind of individuals speaks millions about their well-being and sometimes gives a reflection of their mental health. Noted as a form of mental health challenge by experts, depression experts have also submitted that if not treated early, can be harmful to the human mind. And the World Health Organization estimates that some 280 million people across the world are suffering from depression. Welcome to another edition of Deadline 360. I am Omotola Omojola, and it is always a pleasure to have you join us. On this edition, we will be looking at depression as a mental health challenge. Are you feeling sad or down? Are you having low morale and losing interest in those things that used to be exciting and you just can't shake off the emotions? As much as you hate to admit it, there is a high possibility that you could be having depression disorder. Well, I am not a doctor, so don't take my word for it. But health correspondent Basi Ita Ikbang, who has interacted with a number of health practitioners, has a proper perspective on depression as a mental health challenge.
We are living in a world where almost every physical illness has a cure. Medical discovery every day, per se, is making what seems to be impossible possible. However, when it comes to our minds, it is not easy to take off, and depression sets in. Often referred to as a chemical imbalance of the brain and emptiness in the soul, record shows it's a common illness worldwide, with more than 300 million people affected globally, and close to 800,000 people commit suicide every year, amounting to one person every 14 seconds.
It's a mixed mate, a cocktail of sadness and grief that is protracted and perpetuated, that leads up to a point where you have no value in yourself.
Depression in Nigeria, caregivers say, is more common than people think. 7 million Nigerians currently suffer from it. Oftentimes, people are confused about depression, mental health, and grief. What are the differences?
Depression is a mental health condition. But it is not the same as maybe grieving because of the loss of your father, mother, or any such person that is close to you, beloved one. You can get over it over time. For you to say grief, sadness is tending to depression, it must endure unabated for a period of not less than 2 weeks.
Though there are no unified answer to the root cause of depression, what is agreed is that the brain disorder seems to be genetically influenced, linking it to biological and environmental factors. However, depression could be avoided and overcome.
There are treatments for depression. You need to go to the hospital. There are some antidepressant medicine that they can give. What I know that works best is the ability to talk about your issues, your ability for a counselor to engage with you and start getting healing. Go through therapy. Therapy for me is the best healing for depression.
To make a time for yourself. Go out and socialize with people. This way you are fighting depression one way or the other.
The issue there is that they're getting it back on their children, on their loved ones, and you see them withdrawn and not participating. So we need to talk to our women. We need to encourage the society that we should check our health. And when you feel this depression coming in, what I suggest here that I know about that, when you talk about it, you feel a little bit relief.
Despite the availability of evidence-based treatments, patients usually do not get the help they need to manage depression. Rather, they are faced with a feeling of shame, stigma, and discrimination. In all this, experts advise that if you are already feeling depressed, giving up is a wrong option. Talking to somebody and seeking medical advice could assist. Identifying what works for you as long as it is morally right could also prevent you from getting into that depressed state. Basi Taipan for Deadline 360.
And as the clamor for improved physical health increases, mental health professionals have expressed concerns about how inadequate awareness on how to manage depression increases the struggles of sufferers. From Kano, Elizabeth Yila Lamido x-rays the prevalence rate of depression and its debilitating effects on the state and experts' opinion on how to proceed.
Depression is a common but challenging condition that combines life experiences, thoughts, and actions to create a pattern that is difficult to break out of, and often manifests through mood swings, loss of interest, pleasure, and appetite, low self-esteem, lack of sleep, and poor concentration. According to global statistics, Nigeria has the highest number of depression cases in Africa. With a population of more than 200 million, the prevalence rate of depression is at 3.9%, which is about 7 million Nigerians currently suffering from it, as explained by a psychiatric doctor, Aminu Shehu Ibrahim.
Depression is associated with the living conditions of people. You find it almost everywhere.
It's associated with the physical disorders and almost any disease that you can think of. Most particular diseases that don't go away, you just treat them, you just control them. Depression is also associated with use of drugs. Substantial number of people who use drugs are depressed, and they're using self-medicating themselves. By taking those drugs like alcohol, they are trying to ward off their problems like difficulty in sleeping and worry.
Although it is a known mental disorder, there exists a disproportionate prevalence among genders.
Most cases of depression have been missed, but the true picture is you have more females having depression compared to males, and the reason is females usually don't complain. They stay at home, they turn their problems inwards. But males, part of the reason why males don't present is when a man has a problem, he goes out to look for drugs. I'm telling you, people self-medicate to ward away their problems. In fact, we observe that sometimes that most people who use cough syrup containing codeine, which is very common among females.
Dr. Aminu further stated that depression ranks at number 4 among all diseases known to mankind, and the global burden of disease has projected by the year 2030 it will be at number 1.
There are a substantial number of people who are living in the community who might look normal, but they have depression. Depression is categorized into 3. Just like almost all disorders, you have the mild depression, you have the moderate depression, and you have the severe depression. Substantial number of people who have mild to moderate depression are living within the community. They don't come to the hospital. And only very few come, the ones with a severe form of depression.
Medical experts are of the opinion that victims of depression should be engaged by their friends and families through talking to them. However, whether mild, moderate or severe depression, they need to be taken to the hospital for urgent medical attention. From Kano, Elizabeth Yilalamido for Dateline 360.
Depression as a mental health disorder we have learned manifests in different forms and could be a symptom of another type of mental health challenge like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Due to activities of insurgents which have spanned over a decade, a significant number of residents of the northeast region of Nigeria are presumably suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Many of them, Maimuna Garba reports, manifest behavioral, cognitive and psychological depression due to their continued exposure to the conflict situations around them. Let's hear her explain further.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a condition of persistent mental and emotional stress occurring as a result of injury or severe psychological shock, typically involving disturbance of sleep and constant vivid recall of the experience with dull responses, among others.
It's essentially a protracted or a long-term response to traumatic event or something that has frightened you, something that has destabilized you psychologically, because of what you have witnessed or what you have had that is so overwhelming.
Nigeria alone accounts for more than 1.5 million cases of post-traumatic stress disorder annually, mostly as a result of the conflict situation in many areas.
About 10 years prior to the insurgency, we had 56 cases, roughly about 60 cases. While in the 10 years after the onset of insurgency, the cases have increased to almost 400. That is virtually about 8 times fold in the number of cases which we have been seeing in this hospital. And I think this is directly related to the traumatic experience or the insurgency that has bedeviled the Northeast.
To this end, nobody is immune to PTSD, so long as an individual is exposed to high level of trauma irrespective of sex or age. Constant reoccurrence of unpleasant happenings trigger manic depression, a worst-case scenario of the PTSD. Difficulty in sleeping and feeling worthless are some of the manifestations of the disorder.
The individual is first and foremost frightful, feeling scared, feeling afraid, and especially when the individual gets a reminder or a flashback of the previous triggering events. People who have been direct victims of Boko Haram atrocities, by and large, manifest some of these signs and symptoms of PTSD.
On post-traumatic stress disorder is not adequate in the country, particularly in the northeast region, where PTSD is on the high level as a result of the insurgency. However, efforts are being made by relevant authority in Borno to sensitize the public, especially IDPs and the host communities, as a lot of people have element of PTSD, not necessarily those traumatized directly by the insurgency.
A lot of attempts have been carried out to increase the awareness of people, such as radio program which the hospital has been doing, in the television program, and also general sensitization in the IDP camp.
It is worthy to note that the disorder could sometimes be curable or reduced to the barest minimum and is treatable through some long-term interventions.
In most cases, they respond to the non-pharmacological treatment. And when the non-pharmacological treatment fails, then we try other modalities, which is a form of specialized care. And even in the specialized care, it can be pharmacological as well as non-pharmacological.
Medical experts strongly believe that with the gradual return of peace to the Northeast, there is need for psychosocial support to victims of the conflicts in order to avoid flashback syndrome.
The likelihood that they are going to have a flashback and then the trigger of events that chase them out of their environment will come up. That is to say, they will start having seen or experiencing or feeling the actual trauma that they experienced first time before they were chased out. So the best approach is to take PS as psychosocial intervention to their doorsteps.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is acknowledged to be a serious health issue that requires treatment to resolve, hence the need for specialist medical personnel to provide psychosocial support to victims. For Deadline 360, Memuna Garba.
And from Maiduguri, we go to Lagos, where Essay Onwamaka examines the level of awareness and management of PTSD in our society.
As the name implies, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a mental disorder that some people develop after they experience or see a traumatic event. The traumatic event may be life-threatening, such as combat, a natural disaster, a car accident, or sexual assault.
Traumatic event can be natural. Could be somebody experiencing natural disaster, volcanic eruption, heavy rainfall that leads to flooding, or it could be man-made. We are talking of war, terrorist banditry that we have that is prevalent in the country right now. Sexual abuse, rape, all this kind of thing constitutes trauma.
According to medical experts, genetics, neurobiology, risk factors and personal factors may affect whether you get post-traumatic disorder after a traumatic event. However, one can develop post-traumatic stress disorder at any age. Symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder may include nightmares or flashbacks, avoidance of situations that bring back the trauma, heightened reactivity to stimuli, anxiety or depressed mood.
Anybody is prone to post-traumatic stress disorder. Two people can experience the same event. One person can come down with PTSD while the other moves on, because we all have our different breaking points.
Reports say the occurrence of post-traumatic stress disorder is generally higher among IDPs than in the general population, with a lifetime prevalence ranging from 42% in Nigeria. The prolonged Boko Haram crisis in northeast Nigeria has caused serious displacement and left the survivors with multiple psychological consequences, such as post-traumatic stress disorder.
From all indications, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, seems to have taken a toll on the vulnerable in the society. But the question that comes to mind is, how well are Nigerians aware about this condition?
All I understand about post-traumatic stress disorder is a situation whereby somebody has gone through a traumatic situation before in the past, and each time the person remembers such situation, it gives the person shock.
You can only manage stress when you free your mind.
The good news is that post-traumatic stress disorder can be treated, but how?
PTSD is, it falls into the category of mental disorder that we say it is manageable. And the reason why we say it is manageable is that there's always a chance of it reoccurring, even though the person might have been cured of it initially, but the chances of a relapse coming is also very high. And so what are the treatment options? We have the psychological option and we have the medical option. Medical option means the use of medications. Under the psychological option, we have something like cognitive behavioral disorders, we have the post-traumatic therapy, and then we can also combine it with the medication. Thereby we're talking of the person using a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Experts say post-traumatic stress disorder affects people differently. So, a treatment that works for one person may not work for another. If you have post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, you need to work with a mental health professional to find the best treatment for your symptoms. In Lagos, S.A. Awamaka.
Often ignored, or shall I say, unexpected, are the symptoms of depression among children. Ifeoma Okafor in this package explored the possibility and symptoms of this disease in children. She reports that experts are advocating proactive steps from parents and caregivers, especially when their words exhibit behavioral changes.
Depression is a significant public health problem. Report from the World Health Organization rates depression at 3.9%, and that 7 million Nigerians currently suffer depression, making it prevalent. Depression has found to be a health challenge that can affect people of any age, including children. Experts have made it clear that it is natural for children, just like adults, to experience emotional ups and downs.
When we say depression, we are looking at a psychological problem that affects the level of happiness that is characterized by a persistent period of unhappiness, loss of interest in pleasurable activities, and reduction in the energy levels of an individual. In as much as this occurs in adults, it also occurs in children.
Some factors have been identified by the experts as trigger buttons for depression, such as physical illness, stressful life events, family history of depression, among other factors. However, for some children, feeling blue for an extended period can be a sign of depression.
Children's symptoms are not as characteristic as that of the adult. So for children, you can see a child who is persistently maybe irritable. Okay, they are just angry, they have angry outbursts, they are withdrawn. For children, we don't, medication is not the first line. Usually we start with therapy. We want to identify the factors that are causing it, work through it, help the child to cope, help the child to develop coping skills, give the child supportive psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. But when the child is presenting with moderate and severe symptoms, we'll first have to use medications to bring down the symptoms, to relieve symptoms, which we then support with psychotherapy, then also family therapy, and also try to solve whatever problems that may have predisposed this child to developing.
Where is the place of law in all this?
Children have certain rights, and in Nigeria, the rights of children are more in breach than respected. Because, I mean, he's my child, I can do anything to him, I can say anything to him. Like in the case I just mentioned to you, one of the things the young boy said was that he was suffering emotional bullying from his father. Well, get out, you're an idiot, you're a good-for-nothing boy, and all the rest. And under the rights of a child, those things is an offense against the law, because the children have a right to life. They have a right to dignity. So when you start telling them, get out, you're an idiot, you're a dog. Now, not everybody has the same level of mental fortitude. Some children can just pass it off as my father just being who he is. But some can really, am I really a dog? Is it like my life is not worth anything? And he begins to ponder on it. That kind of child is a very sensitive child. But I can very well tell you that under the Child Rights Act and under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there are certain aspects we can explore to protect children against things like that.
Some parents share their views on depression in children.
The mother have to come closer to the child, find out the problem of that child.
Have time for them. Just have time for them. Groom them. Listen to them. I think listening is the main key. Listen more. Talk less. Listen more.
Despite the difficulties associated with a depression disorder in children, the good news is that early diagnosis and access to treatment are the panacea to reducing the statistics of sufferers. Ifoma Okafor for Deadline 360.
We've heard it all, and it behoves on all of us to do something to help someone out of depression. Take interest, show love, and one step at a time, together, we will build a mentally healthy society. That's the program today. Thanks for being there. God bless Nigeria.
Fellow compatriots, if no single tribe or religion has defeated poverty, then no single tribe or religion can develop Nigeria. The success story of every state and capital is the contribution of every tribe and religion. Our Nigeria no be wazobia, no majorities or minorities. Every tribe and every religion still dey hustle for naira when no get tribe or religion. So, my country people, let's join this movement that says Naira no get tribe and use the Naira to develop our Naira land. Citizens first. Citizens before state of origin. Citizens before your religion. Citizens before your ethnic belonging. For participation, call 0902 739 5555.
War is an evil net that traps the innocent and the guilty.
War is a wildfire that spreads beyond the quenching efforts of men.
The weak, the strong, the rich, the poor, even the unborn will have no hiding place.
Tribes and tongues and religions will no longer make any meaning at all.
Knowledge will fail you. The economy will be grounded. Your political connections will be useless. And life in general will be stranded if not ended.
Manipulators, troublemakers, and table shakers will not be exempted.
That is why we must make peace the only option in Nigeria.
Join us in one love to preach peace in all the 36 states in Nigeria, including the FCT.
For peaceful engagements through town hall meetings, rallies, and unity concerts. Remember, the two strongest warriors are patience and time. Make peace the only option now.
This message is brought to you by the Ambassador of Voice for Change Initiative, supported by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and the Federal Capital Territory.
We want to talk about rights, there are obligations. I'm not saying that this government is a saint, it's very far from it. But there are things that we can do to make it better, and that's the challenge I'm throwing to you. You don't want to build this nation? I don't know where else you want to go. If I had a choice, I'll come back. When I stand outside and I hear what you have to say about this country that I know that I can die for as one, then I'm really sad because you're young. You have education. You have tools. You have a huge future ahead of you. And you're condemning yourself before you started on that journey. So please don't do that. Please don't.
welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Now last week we took an in-depth look at access to credit facilities for micro, small and medium enterprises. Our discussion centered on the various ways the current administration has developed windows for seamless access to credit, increased support to small businesses, and the provision of capital for prospective traders to operate in the nation's commercial environment. And with the response of numerous small businesses and individuals, we've decided to bring you a second part of the program on access to credit. Tonight, we will expand our discussion on the huge investments in agriculture financing, refinancing, discounted lending, and other schemes which are targeted at the growing enterprises and entrepreneurs, especially women and youths. And all of this in an effort to lift Nigerians out of poverty, provide gainful employment, boost GDP, and generally improve the citizens' quality of life. Now that's the outlook tonight, but first, this report by Benny Adams.
The program is building on the successes recorded in the implementation of the other tracks of the scheme and in line with the plan to fully rejuvenate the economy, with focus on MSMEs in the manufacturing sector. Chairman of the steering committee of the scheme, Mariam Katagum, says the federal government is rolling out the last component of the survival fund, known as the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme. It is an intervention to assist small and growing businesses affected by the pandemic.
These include face masks, hand sanitizers, liquid soaps, disinfectants and processed foods such as gari, palm oil, groundnut oil, and so on.
Under the payroll support scheme, 459,334 individuals benefited across 36 states and the FCT, out of which 43% are female-owned businesses and 3% people with special needs. While the Artisan and Transport Scheme, with an initial target of 333,000, artisans and transport beneficiaries have 293,336 successful beneficiaries across 36 states and the FCT. Others are the CAC Formalization Support Scheme with 244,162 small and growing enterprises registered for free, in addition to the General MSMEs Grant Scheme with 82,491 beneficiaries to date.
We have successfully disbursed 56,842,780,000 to 1,079,323 beneficiaries.
The latter scheme is given preference to products produced in sufficient volumes in each state, which has proven propensity to create jobs and have a multiplier effect on the surrounding economy.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Mr. Abubakar Abdullahi Kuri. He's the Managing Director, CEO of Nasal Microfinance Bank. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
My pleasure this evening.
Let me also introduce tonight, joining us again, Abubakar Nuhu Fipo. He's the Director General of the National Directorate of Employment, NDE. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Cyril,
Right.
and welcome viewers.
Okay. Also here tonight is Mohammed Ali Baba. He's a retired director of the Central Bank of Nigeria and currently is a CEO, Amfani Development Consultant, Agribusiness and Financial Inclusion Facilitators. He's also a special assistant to the RIFAN President. Thanks for being with us tonight.
It's my pleasure.
And we also have tonight Kabir Ibrahim. Is the National President of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. He joins us via Zoom from Katsina. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Cyril. Good to see you.
Let me also welcome to this program someone who has been a beneficiary of these initiatives of government, Abimbola Kafilat Ayeni, the CEO of Bimcaf Palace Nigeria Limited. Hello, thanks for joining us tonight.
Much good evening, everybody.
We'll probably be asking you to tell us about your experience much later in the program, but it's good to have you join us on the program. Thank you. All right, so we have our guests all seated. Well, just a quick note here that last week when we did the first part of access to credit facilities, we wanted a key player in this whole initiative to join us. That's the Bank of Industry. They turned down that request. The letter indicated interest to come on this program a second time. We extended that invitation for this week, and unfortunately, they're not joining us here tonight. So we'll just go into the issues with, I guess, who have responded to this invitation, all in a bid to explain to the numerous Nigerians who have either benefited from the schemes of government or who are looking to be beneficiaries. And let's easily start with the MD of Nassau Microfinance Bank and situate what you have done so far in this whole issue of access to credit for micro, small and medium enterprises.
Thank you, Sirius. I think we have done a lot because of SME is the engine growth of the economy, and most conventional banks don't do what we do. So that's why my institution is set up to bridge the gap in SME finance. I will start with the most popular one, which is what I refer to as COVID or TCF.
Yep.
We have done over 320 billion to over 600,000 beneficiaries. If you go down the lane too, for the AGMIS loan, which is otherwise called agribusiness, small and medium enterprise. We have done 104 billion to about 28,000 beneficiaries. For the anchor borrowers, whereby small farmers are linked with processors or large-scale uptakers, we have done up to 100 farmers with over 40 billion. And recently, we have what we call Youth Investment Scheme that was introduced. It's supposed to be for the youth between the ages of 18 to 35. It's an investment on youth to mitigate the effect of all this Yahoo, banditry, kidnapping, and so on, so that youth can get self-employment and be self-sufficient. We have done over 5,000. It's just starting with about 2 billion. So with time, we get traction around that. Recently, too, with the support of CBN Governor, we introduced what we call non-interest banking. It's meant for those who don't want to do interest-bearing loans because they are financially excluded in that area. So the idea is to bring the non-interest banking to cater for those communities that don't want to do interest-bearing. So currently, that loan is on, and we have started disbursement. We have done about 5,000 as at last week. It started just last week, incidentally. We've done 5,000 for the sum of almost 1.2 billion. So we're going to get traction in those products. And let me state that there are SME loans, so I enjoy Nigerians to come forward, those who are qualified to access the loan. Otherwise, those who are not qualified will apply and they may get
now,
it.
that's in fact, the starting point. The big issue here is, now these facilities are available, but first, who gets to be called qualified or not qualified?
Yeah. The simple thing is these loans are made to assess and abet affordable. They are made to be accessible affordable. So, larger proportion of Nigerians who apply are qualified. For instance, the unique identity is required, which is BVN.
Okay.
Beyond the BVN, you must not have a credit failure in any bank. Not that you took loan, you didn't pay back. You also call it. The idea is to make it less stringent.
Okay,
so that
and
people
how
can access
small a business does a prospective beneficiary need to have before he can access any of these
Now,
facilities?
basically, what you need to have, you have a business experience. It has different categories. For instance, if you take off the targeted credit facility, other referred to as COVID.
Yes.
If you have to have a company, presumably, and then you take up to certain limit, let's say 750. If you are just household, it's 500. So the idea is to allow accessibility because conventional banks don't give that type of loan.
Okay.
And there's a huge gap in the SME finance.
All right, we'll come to other matters as how easy it is to apply for these loans and how people can access them, because we've had in the last 2 programs we did people calling in to say it's extremely difficult to reach. So we'll talk about that, but let's go to the DG of NTA. Well, this is one body that from its name, it is explanatory what role it should be, and how have you carried out this role?
Thank you, Cyril. Before the advent of microfinance banks, before the advent of any financial lending organization, the NDE was established to combat mass unemployment wholesomely. By wholesomely, we mean it impacts skills, it counsels, it guides the unemployed persons to be able to determine the potential in individual unemployed Nigerians, and afterwards impact skills into such persons with the aim of becoming self-reliant. And at that time, the NDE was at liberty. It could impact skills, and it can also grant a credit facility. But with the advent of time, when microfinance bank and other financial institutions began to come by and then lend financial support, the NDE now relaxes. And of course, due to some constraint in the provision of funds. So the NDE now plays down on granting of loans and majorly concentrates on impacting skills on the unemployed Nigerians for the purposes